Yeah, the first one though, this was a few days ago. This is one that Karopi made called "Did Sega Destroy the Economy?" I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think Sega completely destroyed it with all of the capsules that came out with the seasonal events? I mean, it definitely affected it. That's for sure. It's kind of like less of a reason to get some of the capsules. I mean, they still make some money, but I don't know. It definitely like reduced the value of those things. But let's see what Karopi has to say for now, and then I'll kind of like talk about it as he talks about different points.
Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the economy of NGS and has SEGA
I'm kind of
royally
blocking him, and
screwed it
here,
over.
let me move myself so I'm not just blocking him. Let's see. Oh, that's the wrong thing. Whee! There I go. All right, there I am.
But before we jump into all of that, if you're new to the channel, I upload NGS content daily. So if you do play this game, I would really appreciate a subscribe, as it really helps
Subscribe.
Anyway, without further ado,
Don't subscribe to him. He's evil. He's evil. I do like the new little animations that he's got, though.
Now, before we dive into the prices, this is my Ship 4 character, and I specifically chose Ship 4 because the prices on Ship 4 are going to be higher than all of the other ships, simply because of supply and demand. Since there's less players on Ship 4, there is less supply, and thus the prices tend to be a little bit higher. However, another reason why I picked my Ship 4 character specifically is because my Ship 4 character is not premium. For those who don't know, I have two separate accounts. I've got the main account, which is the Ship 2 account, which is Ship 1, 2, and 3 actually. They're all in the same account, and they all have premium because I am an official NGS creator. However,
isn't it not allowed to have two accounts? I thought you couldn't have multiple accounts. He's just, you know, admitting it on a video, and he's an official NGS creator. What's going on here? I mean, I don't care personally, but I thought Sega cared. Maybe they don't. I mean, I guess as long as Karopi doesn't use it for botting, I guess, because I think that's the main reason why they don't want you to do it.
My Ship 4 character is a totally different account, which does not benefit from all of the creator rewards.
I think it's trading between accounts, yeah.
Every single month. So I feel like by using my Ship 4 character, it's a little bit more relatable since I don't have premium, I don't have access to the market whenever I want, and I need to rely on those 3-day shop passes to get any money made. But with that disclaimer out of the way, let us look at the Dreadkeeper market. We are down to 70,000 on Ship 4. Now on Ship 2, this is...
Yeah, on Ship 3 right now, it's at 50,000, and I think it's going to continue to keep going down as people get the Dreadkeepers from the seasonal event, as well as the LTQ and Geolab rank 2. Yeah, I don't think this is going to change anytime soon, unless there's a massive change, because I don't think this new Slayer class is going to be enough, because not everybody's going to be trying for that, and not everybody's going to be using Dreadkeeper either. I think the massive change that needs to happen is the Ultra update in June, but that's quite a while from now. So getting money might be a little bit difficult if you're trying to sell these things at least.
Down to 30,000 per Dreadkeeper 4. And that's obviously because there's a lot more players farming in Ship 2 and there's a lot less demand for Dreadkeeper 4s. But Dreadkeeper 4s used to be 400,000 on Ship 4.
That is true. It was like 350k.
300,000 on Ship 2. Well, the price...
Yeah, it was like 350k on Ship 3, but it kind of fluctuated here and there depending, because when Infernium farming was the thing at the beginning of Stia, it was a little bit lower because, well, I mean, I don't know, like that's when it first came around was the Stia region, but because people were doing Infernium farming in the Droyson plant, people were also killing veterans, so it was a little bit of a better price then, but I think it was still around like maybe like 300k, maybe in the 200k range. But once doing Infernium became irrelevant because of like the seasonal event with the Tenebris, and then the Neos Astrians came out, then, you know, basically nobody was farming the Dreadkeeper capsules at all, so that's why the price went so high at that like 400k mark, because just nobody was doing it. But because of these new limited time events encouraging the veteran farms or just straight up giving you Dreadkeepers, that's why the price is now so low, because there's way more supply than there like is demand now.
Prices of these have plummeted drastically based off two factors. The first one, and probably the biggest reason, is of course the giant mutants. Having the giant mutants,
yeah, that one.
A lot more people are farming there because they like Dracenn Plant. Dracenn Plant has always been a very good place to farm for veteran enemies, so they're farming for veterans, they're killing giant mutants, and thus they get a lot of Dreadkeeper Force, and it's flooding the market, which results in the price of this capsule going down. Now the second factor is the Geometric Labyrinth rank 2. When you're farming there, you're gonna get quite a bit of Dreadkeeper Force if you're able to maintain the S rank and farm consistently and efficiently.
I think plenty of people will do that
end
too.
Up with a lot of Dreadkeeper Force, and thus there's a huge surge in supply. Everyone's running the new content because it's the new hot thing to do, and thus the prices of Dreadkeeper 4 is an absolute free fall. However, it doesn't end there. There is the Stia Domina. Stia Domina used to be between 200 to 300,000 Meseta.
It's pretty much the same situation.
All the way down to 69,000 to 70,000, 75,000. You know, it's between the 70 to 80,000 range right now, but nevertheless, it has decreased in price significantly. And again, the reason for the price drop is simply because these items are so easily and readily farmable through the giant mutants, because you get a bunch of notes which you can craft the Stia Dominas. But on top of that, if you can get S rank in the Geometric Labyrinth rank 2, you also get a ton of Dominas as well.
Yeah, there's not just like a lot of straight up ways to get the Domina instead of having to use all of the Stia notes like before, or even at the beginning of these events, because when the HAL finale dropped, a lot of people just like had a whole bunch of Stia notes built up, and they just kind of depleted all that with all the Infernium that they got either from the straight sources or from like randomites in the previous seasonal event. And that's why they were kind of like more expensive, is because people were using a combination of notes and Infernium. But now that you can just get it straight up and like are able to farm it consistently, that's why the prices of these have gone down. Kind of the same with the Kavaris Dominas.
Well, now you might not get the Stia.
And then like before, like Ale and Red Dominas were just easy to get anyways from the yellow triggers, like the one in Aleo and Retem, as long as you did like the rank 2 version. But I think those actually increased in price, if I'm not mistaken, at least for a little bit once HAL finale dropped.
Domina specifically, but you get the Kavaris Domina, the Red Domina, the Ale Domina, as well as the Stia Domina, so it's a toss-up there. But if you farm it enough, you get a ton of Dominas overall. And now, since everyone is being showered with Dominas, even the Covenant HAL finale is now dropping in price. This used to be 4 million. We've already slashed the price in half in a matter of days, so we're currently looking at 2.1 million for the HAL finales right now, and I suspect that these prices are only gonna go lower. So as you can see, there's a trend over.
I think in a way they might go lower, but I don't think that it's going to be like by too much, because now it's kind of like at a price point where people are actually willing to pay for it. Because originally, because it was just like a new capsule, that's why people were pricing it so high at that 4 mil mark, and people were just going crazy for it, like those that are min-maxing, trying to do the speedrunning with like Arcs records or doing the Dark Falls Aegis fight, because that was new, but not like everybody and their mother was buying these capsules. So that's why seeing it go down to like 2 mil mark, I think more people will be in demand for it and consider actually using it than before. Because, I mean, for me personally, I was just like, there's no way that I'm going to use this, because it's just like way too expensive and not like enough of a difference from like my previous capsules that I've been using, because it is a 4% potency, but like honestly, does that matter too much with the current content? No. But as the price has gone down, I actually was like, you know what, I'll try. I already have like a whole bunch of Dominas and like Aegis Soul kind of like saved up, so I just went for it, and luckily I got all of my armors with HAL finale on it in like 4 tries, so only one time it failed. So I kind of got lucky there, but honestly, like as the price goes down, I think the demand will go up, so kind of eventually like level out with all of these different factors. And once like these seasonal events are done with, and it's just like the Geolab rank 2 where you're getting these straight Styria Dominas, I think it'll kind of level out or even increase in price.
Over here, where all of these really rare, powerful, and expensive augments are now becoming very easily obtainable, which results in the prices going down. So as a regular player, you guys should be happy, right? Yay, we can finally upgrade all our gear, we can get all of these powerful augments, get even stronger, get even more powerful, and life is good, right? Not really, because these camos
not really.
over
That's
here
interesting.
used to be our bread and butter on how we generated meseta as a free-to-play player. I still remember
well, free-to-play, premium, well, yeah, both sides of the coin. So like if you're using your 3-day pass, then you would sell these items if you had them stored up in bulk, and if you're just premium, as you're getting them, you would be selling them as well. But yeah, basically if you're like a whale though, and you're just scratching, you don't really care about selling these items, you just be selling the cosmetics that you're scratching for and don't really want to keep.
Farmed a crap ton of Dreadkeeper 4s back when they were worth 250 to 300,000, and I made a killing by selling Dreadkeeper 4s. The reason for this was because no one was farming for Dreadkeeper 4s, and Dreadkeeper 4s didn't drop like candy. So now we can get to the meat and potatoes of today's video, and that is, did SEGA absolutely kill the market? And the answer is sort of. Yeah, they did, because they made all these items super easily obtainable. So as a free-to-play player, your options to make meseta has become very, very limited. If you don't scratch at all, if you don't...
I don't think it's actually limited, because you gotta think about it this way. Sure, there's like a lot more supply in the market, but at the same time, it was harder to get. So you were getting less of it, but now you're getting more of it, but selling it for less. But think about it this way. So if I'm getting like Dominos like every single run of Geolab and they're selling for like 60,000, I'm going to be continuously getting 60,000. But then if you go back to before, like the way it was with just getting like the Stia notes from farming in like the Medial Outer Area 1, you were getting like a Domina like how often? Not very much. Like maybe like a couple an hour, and like that would be like a few 100,000 meseta. So I think it's actually a faster way to get money now than what it was. At least with the Steer Domina.
The only way to
Converse Domina, maybe not so much.
To farm for super crazy rare items. So for example, the weapon camos that drop from the giant mutants, but we're talking about like 0.00001% chance of dropping.
Actually, maybe it's even better for Converse Domina. Because like you weren't really farming the notes anymore. But now you can just get the straight up Dominas and the Geo Lab as well. I think it's actually we're better off than worse off in terms of getting money. Because sure, it's like, yeah, like I was saying, like it's a lower price, but we're getting more of it. Like it's essentially like a problem of ratio or like efficiency in a way. So if I only get a single Domina in an hour, that with the last method, I was getting 200,000 an hour. But if I get like 5 or 6, whatever, an hour, but it's only selling for 60,000, I'm still making more per hour than I was before. That's essentially what it's come down to now.
I haven't seen like anyone get that. I've seen like one person on Twitter get like the Holy Ray as well as the other one that drops from the Wolin. But we're talking about thousands of people farming for several hours a day, and there's 1 or 2 people that's gotten it. It's extremely rare. So yeah, you can try to farm for that and hope you hit the jackpot and make a couple million through that. But other than that, your only sources of meseta.
Yeah, with the 2 weapon camos, like you can definitely make money with that, but you're kind of relying on just luck, just pure luck, getting super lucky, because I think only like, I don't know, maybe like 10 people have those camos, because I've only seen like a couple in the shop. Like there's one on ship 3 that I've seen and it's going for 500 million. So good luck at actually trying to get one of those camos to drop for you, or if you want to buy it. Well, let's see, you said yes and no. You're forgetting about market flooding. In terms of the Dominas, I think it's okay than what it was before. In terms of masteries, though, let me think about it. So the way to get it before was through captains alone, which, I don't know, it varied like how often they spawned, and they weren't like a guaranteed thing, right? But it seemed like Newsom Plant was a pretty good farm. We're getting like mastery 3s, and like with a very rare chance of getting mastery 4s. But I think once again it comes down to like efficiency of getting things. So like with the LTQs, you can get masteries as well. That kind of factored into it. But because of the seasonal event, which is like, like a one-time occurrence, you got 10 mastery 4s that you can exchange for seasonal points. So that is like a bad sense of like dumping, right? Because it's just like a single source that a lot of people just get guaranteed, that isn't like a farmable thing like these Dominas are. So I think that's where it hurts the market, and not like the dominus, because the dominus you can't get through guaranteed methods. There's more farming methods that are more efficient, and that is why the supply has gone, or like the supply has increased and the price has gone down. But yeah, with the just like an injected artificial amount, that's just like a flat increase to the supply, that's where it hurts the economy, at least for like a few months maybe with the Mastery 4s. But as we talked about before, like there might be Mastery 5, at least, I don't know, early as like June probably with like the Ultra update, maybe a little bit longer than that. But we expect like a Mastery 5 to happen, which will just increase the price of these Mastery 4s. It's kind of like thinking about like stocks, you know? Like people will keep a whole bunch of things for these stocks, expecting like new capsules to be formed out of them. Another example is those Deafness 4s that you can get out of the Stia Yellow Triggers, and also can get out of the seasonal event, where we think they're going to be combination capsules with like the stat 4s, just like in the past. So that could increase the value of them. It just really depends on how the game ends up going. Like if these capsules are going to be obsolete soon, or if they're actually going to be used for future things. Not just those Augs though. You had Soul 4s that were in the 100k range, now they're 5k. I mean, in terms of Soul 4s, yes, they were like that much, but that I think was becoming like the standard. Like the game moves on. Like new things become the standard as we get more levels and new equipment, because I don't think everything should be hard to get. I think like the better like capsules, like the Hal Finale, maybe like the Mastery 4 or whatever, like should be like harder to obtain or to craft. But I think there should be some standard where you don't feel like you're way behind. There should be like easy capsules to get that are still pretty good, like the stat 4s, the soul 4s that are like guaranteed. So not every player is just screwed. Like they have to play like millions of hours to get at least like a decent set of gear. So there's like some sort of like balance, and I think Sega hasn't completely ruined the balance yet. Like you still got to think about what's to come. But I do feel like in these next few months, it's going to be a weird point, because not many people are going to be upgrading except for like newer players or those that are going to be playing the Slayer class, because there's just like no new things like coming out besides that. So we might see like the augment market get worse and worse until we get that level increase in June. But that's how it always happens. Like, and that's going to happen in any other game too. As people get the gear, not as many people are going to be buying it, and there's going to be just more supply going inside the market. It's just like how it is. It's just how it is and how it goes until they introduce new things.
Is probably collecting all your alpha reactors or your valuables every single day, farming for PSE bursts just for raw Meseta, maybe even farming for Gigantics for the Gigas capsules maybe, or you might as well just farm the Geometric Labyrinth.
Our prices should spike because of Slayer though. Well, I'm not saying that it like will stay stagnant during those times. I'm saying it will be like an increase, but I don't think it'll be enough of a difference like with Slayer. Like not everybody's gonna be playing Slayer. Like there will be a good chunk of players playing it, but I don't think it will be enough to go back to where it used to be prior to these limited time quests or seasonal events. But honestly, I'm completely fine with things that you farm for. It's when it comes down to like the Mastery 4s that we just mentioned, where it's just like a straight injection of everybody gets 10. That's where it's just kind of like where it ruins the economy, where they're just straight up ruining it. I guess like the same goes for the Gigas 4s, but there's also ways to farm that too. And I guess like when you think about it, you are still only getting 10. So if the players were to like use them like on all pieces of the gear, like they don't have it yet, 4 players amount equals 1 player. Because you would need, like if you're trying to use, 10 capsules per piece, you would need 40, right? So like you would need your own and then 3 other players worth to be able to upgrade your entirety of equipment. But like I said, I don't think that many people are going to be upgrading, and that's why we see a surplus of these capsules injected into the market, because people are just not using it for themselves. Just like a select few of like newer players. That's why I think at the same time as like these injections, there should be either shortly after or kind of like during, like, I don't know, some alternatives to like the equipment that we already have that like people would actually consider using. Because right now this Trunkle just isn't it. Like, it isn't it. There's no new armors. Like, the armors in there in the seasonal shop, like the FTs, not really going for. And also at the same time, these weapons and armor that you're getting out of here are already pre-ogged anyways. So just like, I don't know, if people don't want the economy to be affected, there would have to be something new that people want to upgrade. But also at the same time, people don't want that to happen because they don't want to upgrade every single month a new piece of gear, you know, like for more and more increases of things. They want to be able to keep their gear at least for a little while, like, I don't know, like 3 to 6 months, I feel, is like a good like span for keeping gear. Because just like how the augment system works, you know, being based on RNG and just be a heavy investment cost and you can't transfer it over, I feel like your gear needs to last at least some amount of time. Well, let's continue with what Kuropi's saying.
For that, because remember, the Gigas capsule level 4s also dropped there. But yeah, as a free-to-play player, you really don't have many options to make a ton of Meseta anymore because everything is so readily available. Now, do I think Sega made the right move over here? I'm personally on the fence. I think it's a mixed bag.
On the fence.
Because if I'm a new player or if I'm a progressing player and I've still got stuff to upgrade, I think this is amazing because I don't need to depend on the marketplace. I don't need to spend my hard-earned Meseta on all of these very expensive capsules, which will only give me like a 1% DPS upgrade. Instead, I can spend the time to play the game to farm for all of these capsules, since I know that these items drop fairly often and they're not like ultra rare anymore. So I can slowly but surely build my way up there without having to spend any of my Meseta, and that would...
I guess like the problem here is probably why he's on the fence, is that like it's great for new players, but it's terrible for people that have been continuously playing the game, that have like stuck with the game, because they took a long time getting these capsules beforehand, and now that's because it's like so much easier for these newer players to be able to upgrade their gear. They feel like they've gotten shafted, or they're just kind of like spat on because they're just handing these different things out. I agree with seasonal events being bad for injection, but I think when it comes to actual quests where you farm things, I don't think it's as bad. I don't know. Like, Geolab Rank 2 for sure is not a bad thing. That's like a permanent quest in the game that anybody can farm. It's more efficient in terms of like getting Meseta anyways from the previous methods, so I don't think that affects the economy there. It's kind of iffy on like the mutants thing, right? Because everybody was going after the mutants, the giant ones, trying to get the Dreadkeeper capsules as well as a very lucky chance at the camos. So it's just kind of hard to say. Limited time quest injections were bad. Yeah, I guess you could argue that. But I don't know, the same time, like Geolab is also giving those things. And it kind of occurred almost at the same time anyways. I think the main problem is just the seasonal event. I don't think it's the LTQs either. I think it's mainly just the seasonal event being very easy to get the seasonal points and just giving you a straight guaranteed like 10 mastery, 10 of each Gigas capsule, and whatever else that's like used to be very hard to get, or you had to actually do difficult things to obtain, or at least things that took time. With the seasonal point stuff, you can essentially do any content and get the best stuff. Like, you don't have to do something specific for it, which I think that is where the problem lies. At least for, you know, comparing it between newer players and veteran players, you know?
That way I can save all the weekly Meseta that I make, that 800,000, and I can slowly build up and spend all of that solely on fashion items instead of having to split my economy between gear and fashion. So I think Sega is trying to encourage people to try to push people towards more powerful augments, you know, in the 90%, 95%, 100% potency, that sort of range. You know, you don't have to feel pressured to do that because honestly, there's no content in the game that really requires you to...
Yeah, I think I don't think it really pushes new players to upgrade better. I don't think it really changes it at all. Like, it does give them some of the capsules, but I don't know, from a lot of it, like, stories that I've heard from newer players, they didn't understand that was the best in slot capsule, so they used it on things that they probably shouldn't have. Like, way lower things, like they were using a Mastery 4 on, like, an evil coat, or like a sectional or whatever, as they're just going through the game thinking that it was like super easy to get, and then they get down the line when they're actually at the end game content and they're like, oh, I should have used it on like the Neos Astrian or like a rugged weapon or something instead of on the gear that I was using leading up to that point. So I don't think it's really going to help players understand when to use these augments. Sure, it will give them the augments themselves, but I don't think it's like teaching them anything, you know?
To have
or pushing them in a direction.
Min max to that degree anyway. I think for the average player, if you're at like 65%, 70%.
And also, once again, you just talked about fashion too. I think more often than not, people would rather just sell the augments for a quick buck, as we clearly see in every single player market, or more fashion instead of using it for themselves.
Potency, you're probably fine for the majority of the content. Sure, you're not going to be hard carrying, but at the very least you can carry your own weight as long as you understand the mechanics and you learn the boss fights and stuff like that. It's not going to be the end of the world. But I am a little bit concerned for the free-to-play players, because now to make Meseta you are limited pretty severely. You used to have a lot of different options, a lot of different activities to farm and to sell these expensive capsules in order to make some money. Sure, it wasn't the most fun thing, but at the very least you knew if you invested X amount of hours, you were guaranteed to make X amount Meseta at the very least. And
I do agree with that. There used to be a whole bunch of different ways prior to these different activities, like the limited time quests or whatever, where you could do, like I said before, the Meteor Outer Area 1 for like steer notes. You could do purple triggers for Gigas capsules and like fix like a Claire armors or whatever. There was Darkfall's Aegis for the Neos weapons and the Aegis soul. There was like a whole bunch of different activities to do that was widespread. I have like a list here of like all the different things, because I made a video on like Meseta making prior to this shenanigan stuff. Here, let me see. Where is that? Here it is. So yeah, you could get gun blazes from the Newson plant, for instance. There's still the weapon camo there, like the Dragon Slayer one. So like that's good to drop if you get it to drop, I guess. There's masteries from captains, which the prices of those have reduced because of the seasonal event. There's like the armor itself, because like you're getting the FTs ones, not many new players are going to be buying the new armors like the Ajax or Claire ones anymore. Yeah, killing dreads used to be like a great thing, but prior to the giant mutants, but like you're killing dreads anyways, I just encourage people to go strictly for that. That's why I don't really have much of an issue, because it still is dealing with dreads in their normal way from before anyways. There was also Alt Secreta though, which that has not changed much. Like there is the guaranteed with Infernium, but that isn't really much of an issue, I don't think. And then it's usually just dropped in like deck space with the altars there. And I don't think many people were getting like a ton of Alt Secreta 4s doing the giant mutants or the limited time quests, because I think it used to be like around 50,000 Meseta prior to these things on ship 3 at least, but now it's like, I don't know, 35,000, so it hasn't made much of a dip. But I think that dip is mainly just because people have already upgraded their gear. Like they're pretty much done at this point. They're just waiting for the next thing. So I think Alt Secreta is still like a great thing to farm if you want to go for that. You can also still sell triggers of Darkfall's Aegis, because some people are still buying those for at least some Meseta. I looked at it today. It was 20,000 per trigger on ship 3. So when you get a set of 5 from the Alliance quests, you can get just an easy 100,000, just like that. You can get the straight guaranteed Meseta from the cacheable items like the Alpha Reactors, the Stellar Fragments, the Snoll, the Invisible Boxes, all those things every single day. I don't know. I feel like there's still plenty of things to do, but they definitely reduced the list. They definitely reduced the list of like what used to be good to go for. Yeah, I don't know, like pretty much just Geolab Rank 2 has like centralized a lot of the augments where they were separate before. I think that's like the reduction of like the majority of the things that we did before, which I don't think is necessarily like a bad thing. Because, I mean, we were complaining with Geolab Rank 1 where it had shit drops, and now it has like amazing drops. And now people are complaining that it has amazing drops, which I guess is fair. The way that they should have done it, at least in my opinion, is introduce like new capsules, or at least not get every single capsule in the one quest. I think they could have done without the Gigas capsules in there and just keep like the stat 4s, the Dominas, and maybe the Dreadkeepers in there as well. So that way purple triggers would still be viable. Because purple triggers is another like great endgame content, like boss rush activity. So I feel like getting rid of the purple triggers was like a little weird, or a bit weird of an option. Yeah, let's finish off what Croppy has to say here, though.
Current quote-unquote meta, you're kind of forced into PSE bursting, or you're time-gated through your valuables, or you farm Geometric Labyrinth rank 2 until your brain melts. These are pretty much the only 3 activities that I could think of in order to make Meseta as a free-to-play player, and even then, in order to make the bulk of your Meseta, you still need to pop your 3-day shot pass anyway. So yeah, for the free-to-play players, stay strong. It's gonna be a little bit rough for the next couple weeks, especially with the seasonal event coming in. You know, we're gonna be able to get Dreadkeeper 4s again, Gigas Capsule 4s. I fully expect the Gigas Capsule 4 to crash again because everyone's going to be able to buy out the event shop. They're going to get Gigas Capsule 4s. And I think a lot of people are probably just going to be preparing for the Slayer class because, you know, the Slayer class looks really good. It actually might be a good idea to take advantage of all the low prices right now to actually build a piece of armor for your Slayer. I would not recommend building a weapon for a Slayer, even though, you know, there's no real reason why you would build a weapon for the Slayer, since you can't have a gunblade now, unless you're planning to use a multi-weapon and you're gonna gamble. You know, maybe you build a wired lance and fully augmented it with range capsules, and then that way, once the gunblade comes out, you're gonna multi-weapon it together.
I think he's going on a tangent now.
Maybe, but then you're gambling on the weapon series, and you're kind of hoping that you get that weapon series and it's good enough and it's strong enough, sort of like that. So I don't recommend gambling on your weapon.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah, I don't think the economy is like completely ruined. I think it's just more centralized now. Like the only exception to that, once again, being mastery, but at the same time, mastery is still worth money. Like all these things are still worth money. That none of this has gone to like 1,000 Meseta, like for these augments. It's just been reduced somewhat. Like the Gigas capsules are still worth like 90,000 to 100,000. Dreadkeepers are still worth like 50,000. Masteries are still worth 300 some thousand. You know, just like all of these are worth, you know, still good money. It's just like more efficient to get them, or there's just been like an injection, which everybody can sell anyways. Like you can sell the Mastery 4s if you want to, that you get from the seasonal event, which were free. So I guess like you would just make money like automatically. So it's just kind of like if you were saving up prior, that's the only time that you would be screwed, right? If you have been holding on to capsules expecting it to go higher. But I think that's kind of like your own fault if you expected it to be that way, because once again, this is a video game where levels increase and we get new gear and new augments. So if you keep holding on to old stuff, it's going to keep reducing in price anyways, no matter what happens. So like essentially what the game does is you got the current capsules. They're like extremely high priced at first because it's a new thing, and then they start like dipping, and then there's like this new gear that comes out that's really good, like Neos Astrian, for instance, where people will use a ton of the capsules again, so it kind of goes back up, and then it goes back down with seasonal events and other quests going on, and then there's like a new piece of equipment or just new augments in general, so there's a new thing to farm for, so it goes back up. It's just always up and down, like you got your troughs and your peaks. Like that's just how it goes, even with the real economy. Oh, they always give us like these headlines or like the roadmap where we can kind of guess at what's to come and like how the economy's going to go anyways. Like as we mentioned before, like with the Slayer class, we think the augments are going to go up a little bit, which probably will be, at least for ranged augments or anything that's like generic potency. Like that just kind of makes sense, right? So I think if you really cared about the economy and you're holding on to items to sell at a higher price, then you should be aware of these things as they come up. So like, what do you think is the best time to sell? Essentially, that's just down to the player. Like, you know, it's your own fault if you don't sell it when it was worth more, or if you bought when it was worth more and it is now lower. Like, that's essentially like your own fault. That's not always the case, though. The Frost Soul 4, for an example, was 250k each before the 32-man LQ, now is 10k. That's pure injection, not that the AUG is outdated. There wasn't really a demand for Frost Soul 4, but there was also not really a supply, and that's why it was so high. So that's why, in that instance, it just quickly went to way lower numbers, because there was alternatives. Like, the same works also in the real market, where if there's an alternative to something, and it's way cheaper, a lot of people will buy that other alternative as long as it's like on par with the other thing, right? So like butter, margarine, that kind of thing. And they're similar products. So there's a lot of other Soul 4s which pretty much did the same thing or better. So like Age of Soul or Dust Soul, there was Freed Soul, which you can get through the mission pass, that also affected the price of the Frosted Soul, even though it wasn't directly the same capsule. Another augment that I can think of, actually, the Super Augment. That is a 2.25% potency capsule. That is no longer worth, like, anything. It's not, like, best in slot. It's not even, like, decent anymore. But it's worth 300,000 on ship 3. 300,000. Because some crazy people are trying to sell it that high. Because nobody does Cannonball. Nobody, at least not anymore. Just nobody does the Cannonball stuff, and that's why it's so high. Because it's just just a select few people that have super capsules. But nobody in the right mind should be buying those things, right? Same as nobody in the right mind would be buying Frostal Souls when there was alternatives that were way cheaper. Like, it's the same principle, right? I mean, you might get lucky and people will buy the Frostal Soul. There's probably somebody out there that's buying those fucking super capsules, but yeah, scamming the unknowing peasants. Feels bad, man.